She laughed. Not a soft laugh. Not a nervous, maybe I shouldn't say this kind of laugh. No, this was full volume, open-mouthed, high-pitched amusement. The kind that echoed down the hallway and punched me in the chest before I even heard the words. He thinks I actually like him, she told her friends. Girl, I haven't paid for dinner in 3 months. He's basically my food sponsor. That was the night I stopped being her boyfriend and started becoming her karma. What happened next was rather unexpected. I will tell you everything. First, let me thank you for your continuous support. If you love stories like this one, support us by subscribing to this channel and comment where you're watching us from. It will be great to hear from you. Now let's jump into the details of what happened. I've always been the kind of guy who believes that if you care about someone, you show it. Simple as that. You listen. You open doors. You pick up the tab without making a big deal about it. That was how I was raised. My dad never let my mom touch a bill when they were out, even when money was tight. So when I started dating Emily, doing those things just felt natural. She'd flash that perfect smile of hers, reach across the table and touch my hand, and say, "You're so sweet," in a way that made me feel like I was doing something right. Like maybe I'd finally found someone who saw me. Emily was stunning. Curly hair that framed her face like it belonged in a movie, a laugh that was infectious in the best and worst ways, and confidence that made people lean in when she talked. We met at a mutual friend's game night, and she beat me at Scrabble with the word squalor. I remember laughing, telling her no one should look that good using that word. She winked, and that was it. I was in. We started seeing each other almost immediately, and for the first few weeks, everything felt easy. Dinner dates, lazy Sundays, wine and movies. She'd always thank me for the meals, the Ubers, the concert tickets. I didn't mind paying. I liked taking care of her. I liked how she made me feel. Needed, appreciated, lucky. But slowly, things started to change. It was small at first, little digs wrapped in compliments. You always take me to the nicest places. My ex could never afford this. Or, I only date men with taste, and the means to back it up. At first, I laughed them off. She had a sharp tongue, sure, but I thought it was just banter. I mean, who doesn't joke like that sometimes? But then there were the Instagram captions. A picture of her holding a champagne glass with the words, "Another free meal, another simp." Tagged at a steakhouse I paid for. I saw it late at night, scrolling while she slept next to me. My stomach sank. I didn't say anything the next morning. I told myself it was just a joke. Maybe she didn't mean it that way. Maybe I was being too sensitive. But once you notice the crack, you can't stop staring at it. You start tapping the walls, testing for hollowness. And man, it was hollow. Every time we went out, she'd order the most expensive thing on the menu, barely glance at the price. She'd gush to the waiter about how it was her first time trying truffle risotto, then snap a picture before taking a single bite. The food wasn't for us. It was for the feed. The breaking point came on a Thursday night. She had a few girlfriends over while I worked late in my home office. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop. Really, I wasn't. But the walls are thin, and when laughter carries, it carries. One of her friends, I think it was the one with the fake lashes and louder voice, asked, "So what's the deal with this guy? You actually like him, or just like the perks?" Emily didn't hesitate. She laughed. Not a nervous laugh. A full, open-mouth laugh. "Please. He's sweet. But let's be real. He's my food passport. I haven't paid for dinner in 3 months. He thinks he's spoiling me, but I'm just cashing in." There was more laughter, a few clinks of glasses, someone snorting, someone saying, "Girl, you're savage." And then Emily, again. "As long as he keeps paying, I'll keep pretending." I sat there frozen. The cursor blinked on my screen like it was waiting for me to type something, but my fingers wouldn't move. My chest felt tight, like someone had tied a string around my ribs and pulled. I wasn't even angry yet. Just numb, shocked, embarrassed. Like I'd been walking around naked, and everyone had known but me. I didn't confront her that night. I needed time, space, a moment to process what I'd heard and decide what kind of man I wanted to be next. Part of me wanted to yell, to call her out right there in front of her smug little audience. But another part of me, the quieter, meaner part, wanted something better, something memorable, something she'd never be able to twist into a joke for her friends. And that's when the idea started to form. It wasn't rage that drove me. It was clarity, a calm, cutting realization that I'd been played, and that maybe, just maybe, I had one final card left to play. And I intended to make it count. After that night, I became a damn good actor, smiling when I wanted to scream, touching her back gently when I wanted to push her away, laughing at her stories while my mind cataloged every red flag I had ignored. I kept dating her, kept paying, kept pretending, just like she was. Except now I was watching, not loving. I stopped seeing Emily as the woman I cared about and started seeing her for what she was, a con artist with lip gloss and a laugh that could disarm a bomb. We still went out, more than ever, actually. She got bolder, more entitled. One night at a rooftop bar, she didn't even thank me after a $300 tab. She just kissed my cheek and said, "You're such a good investment," then turned to take a selfie. That word, investment, stuck with me like a thorn under the nail. I started keeping tabs, not because I cared about the money anymore, but because I wanted to see how deep the rabbit hole went. Over 6 weeks, I spent over $2,000. Not a single dollar reimbursed. Not a single offer to split anything. She never reached for her purse. Never even did that fake wallet grab some people do to appear polite. I told my best friend Marcus about it one night over beers. He knew Emily a bit, had met her at a party once, and wasn't impressed. "Bro," he said, leaning back in his chair, "she's a walking red flag factory. You're funding her influencer starter kit." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Just fatigue. "I think I want to do something," I said. He raised a brow. "Something big." He didn't ask questions. He just said, "Do it. Whatever it is. I'll be there." The plan started brewing that night. If she wanted to play a role, I'd let her finish the act. With a standing ovation from karma itself. Over the next week, I went full Prince Charming. I picked her up in a rented Audi, brought flowers to her apartment, made dinner reservations at places with 3-month wait lists. And she lapped it up, told her friends I was finally stepping up, as if I hadn't been doing all of this from the jump. It was wild how quickly she leaned into the fantasy again. No suspicion, no hesitation. When I mentioned the 5-star place downtown, La Belle Aime, the one with white-gloved waiters and wine lists heavier than most law textbooks, she practically squealed. "Oh my God, I've always wanted to go there. You're the best." She kissed me, but it felt mechanical, like watching a vending machine drop a soda. "Press a button, get your reward." I smiled, said all the right things. "Dress up, babe. I want to spoil you. No limits tonight." And I meant it. I wanted her to feel limitless, right before the drop. Marcus helped me scout the restaurant a day before. We picked out the perfect spot across the street, second floor of a parking garage with a clear view through the restaurant's front windows. I bought popcorn from a street vendor and stashed a pair of binoculars in the glove compartment. I was ready. The night of the dinner, she wore a red dress that probably cost more than my month's rent. Her heels clicked like a countdown. In the car, she said, "I'm starving. You think they have truffle pasta?" I smiled and said, "Get whatever you want." And she did. 3 appetizers. A seafood tower. The most expensive champagne on the menu, $6.80 for a vintage bottle I'm pretty sure she didn't even like. She kept tagging the restaurant in her stories, panning her phone across the table, making sure the labels and prices showed. I watched her slip into character like she was born for it. Halfway through the meal, just as she was posting a boomerang of the dessert card, I stood up, pulled out my phone, and mouthed, "Work call." She nodded, barely looking up. I walked out the door, turned the corner, and jogged up the stairs to the parking garage. Marcus handed me the binoculars like we were on a stakeout. And then, I watched the performance of a lifetime. She didn't notice I was gone at first, too busy taking selfies and sipping champagne. But then 10 minutes passed. Then 15. She started glancing around. Her smile faltered. She checked her phone, texted me, called. Once, twice. Her mouth tightened. She waved over the waiter, who looked confused. She pointed to the door, to her phone, to the bill. When they brought the check, she actually laughed, probably thinking I'd walk back in with a dramatic gotcha and pay. But I didn't. I sat there, eating popcorn while she spiraled. She tried calling again. The waiter came back with the manager. Her face turned red. I could hear her voice through the glass, high and panicked. That's when the phone rang in my pocket. Marcus and I looked at each other. I handed him the phone. He answered, "This is his assistant. He's unavailable right now." Then he hung up. Down below, she looked like she was on the verge of tears. She kept gesturing, probably trying to explain that her boyfriend would be back any minute. But the waiter wasn't buying it. They handed her the card reader. She hesitated, pulled out her phone, tried transferring money between apps. Finally, she swiped a card, and from the way she slumped, it probably got declined. She tried another. Success. Barely. Then came the walk of shame. No champagne in her hand this time. Just a handbag clutched like a lifeline and heels tapping out of frantic retreat. Marcus and I stood in silence. He handed me the popcorn. I took a bite. Damn, he said. You really played the long game. I didn't say anything. I just watched her disappear down the block and felt, for the first time in weeks, like I could finally breathe. When I woke up the next morning, I had 32 missed calls. 20 of them were from Emily. The rest were from unknown numbers or her friends. Numbers I didn't recognize, but could tell by the desperation in their voicemails that they were trying to do damage control. I didn't listen to most of them, but one stuck out. It was her voice, trembling, caught between rage and panic. You're not serious. Tell me this is a joke. I'm sitting here embarrassed as hell, and you think that's funny? You think leaving me at a restaurant is cute? I look like an idiot. Everyone saw. My card almost didn't go through. Do you even understand how humiliating that was? I swear to God, if you don't call me back. She didn't finish the sentence. Just hung up. The voicemail was cut short, like her breath ran out before her pride did. I lay in bed, the morning light stretching across my chest like a clean slate. I didn't feel joy exactly. It wasn't that simple. There was no triumphant music playing in the background. No high fives. Just silence. Stillness. Like the dust settling after a collapse. And I didn't feel guilty. That surprised me. I expected some part of me to ache for her, to regret watching her squirm. But nothing. She'd been playing a game. I just flipped the board. Marcus texted me around noon. You're viral, dude. I blinked. What? He sent me a link to a tweet. Someone had recorded Emily arguing with the restaurant staff. The caption read, Girl got left at a $500 dinner and her man ghosted mid-dessert. Iconic or evil? The video had over 100,000 views. Comments were pouring in. Half the internet was divided. Team Petty versus Team Savage. Some of the top replies? She deserves it. Bet she was treating him like an ATM. He's trash. No real man would do that. This is cinema. I need a part 2. I didn't comment. I didn't like or retweet. I just watched as strangers dissected our relationship from 30 seconds of grainy footage and one overly dramatic caption. By the end of the day, 3 more videos popped up, different angles, different takes. Emily's face was everywhere. I got a message request from her best friend, Sasha. You think this is funny? You humiliated her. You better fix it. Fix what? I thought. The truth? Later that night, Emily texted again. This time it was short. You don't get to make me a joke. But that's where she was wrong. She made me the joke first. That weekend, I went out for drinks with Marcus. We hit a dive bar, nothing fancy, no photo ops, just dim lights and sticky floors and the sound of pool balls cracking in the back. I hadn't felt that relaxed in months. While we nursed beers, he asked me if I missed her at all. Honestly, I said, no. I think I miss who I thought she was. That version of her that laughed at my jokes and held my hand like I meant something. He nodded. She played a part. You just gave her the final scene. We toasted to that. But the fallout didn't stop. On Monday, I ran into a mutual acquaintance, someone I barely knew, but they knew Emily well enough to give me that tight-lipped, judgmental smile. She's not doing great, they said. Maybe you should talk to her. I shrugged. She talked enough. I just finally listened. By the middle of the week, Emily was spinning, desperately, visibly, and way too publicly. Her once perfectly curated Instagram feed started to shift tone. Gone were the high-gloss photos of cocktails and candlelit dinners. Now it was cryptic quotes on black backgrounds. Some people never loved you. They just loved what you did for them. Or my personal favorite. Trust no one. Realize, realize, realize. I almost laughed when I saw that one. The irony of a woman who literally admitted to pretending, for perks trying to paint herself as the victim of betrayal. It was almost poetic. And the comments? They were brutal. People weren't buying the act. Someone had found her champagne post from the night of the dinner, zoomed in on the glass, and commented, That look before the storm hit. Others dug up older posts where she bragged about being spoiled, turning them into receipts. The internet never forgets. And once the story got traction, she couldn't control the narrative anymore. Every attempt to spin it made her look worse. When she posted a selfie with the caption, "Still unbothered," the top comment was, "Girl, your credit card declined on video." I didn't respond. To anyone. Not her. Not her friends. Not the random people who messaged me asking for my side. I stayed silent. And in that silence, I watched her unravel. It wasn't that I wanted her destroyed. I just wanted her exposed. There's a difference. What she did wasn't illegal. It was just fake. Cruel. Superficially charming until it cost her something real. Sasha, her ride-or-die friend, tried dragging me online. Posted a long-winded story claiming I was emotionally manipulative, broke, and bitter. I don't know what kind of rewrite of reality she thought she was selling, but it didn't land. Within hours, people were asking where Sasha was the night of the infamous restaurant bill. If she was such a good friend, why wasn't she footing the check when her girl needed a rescue? The best part? La Belle Aime, the restaurant itself, posted a video on TikTok thanking their staff for handling a delicate situation with patience and professionalism. The comments knew exactly what it referred to. One of the waiters became a minor celebrity. Someone even made a meme of him holding the check with the caption, "Sir, she said he'd be right back." As for me, I went back to work. I walked into my office, kept my head down, and focused. But the whispers still followed me. Coworkers who never spoke to me suddenly wanted to grab coffee. One in turn said, "Man, I saw that video. If that was you, you're a legend." I shrugged it off. I wasn't proud in the way people assumed. This wasn't a victory lap. It was closure. Just Messier. One night, Marcus and I went out for tacos. Cheap, greasy, real. No reservations needed. Over salsa and Modelo. I told him what had really hit me the hardest. It wasn't that she used me, I said. It's that she didn't even feel bad about it. She laughed, like I was some running joke between her and her friends. He nodded slowly. Yeah, man, that kind of fake is dangerous. That's the kind of person who breaks you and then acts like you're the villain for bleeding. That stuck with me, because that's exactly how she played it. I didn't even recognize the girl who was now throwing herself a pity party online. The Emily I knew, the one who beat me at Scrabble, who made pancakes at 2 a.m., who said she'd never met anyone who listened the way I did. That girl vanished the moment I stopped funding her fantasy. I didn't know her an explanation. I didn't know her closure. She made her bed on a white linen tablecloth with oysters and champagne, and then cried when the check came due. So I left it. I blocked her number, deleted our photos, cleared the chat threads. And when one of her mutuals tried to reach out just to talk, I said, "There's nothing left to talk about." She made her choice. I just made mine louder. It had been 23 days since I walked out of La Belle Aime, and the world had more or less gone quiet. No new voicemails. No tagged Instagram posts. No mysterious, mutual friend messages trying to probe me for drama. Emily had faded from my immediate reality like a storm cloud blown off course. Still out there, still potentially dangerous, but far enough away that the sky above me stayed mostly clear. I didn't miss her. What I missed was more complicated. It was the illusion I had wrapped around her. The version of her I had created in my own mind. The woman who laughed at my bad puns, who made blueberry pancakes on Saturdays, who texted me good luck before every big presentation. The Emily I loved wasn't real. She was a mask worn by someone who saw affection as currency and generosity as weakness. What I missed wasn't her. It was the comfort of believing someone saw me, valued me, loved me for more than my ability to foot a bill. When that fantasy shattered, I wasn't just hurt. I was humiliated. But the worst part? I couldn't even admit to most people how deep the cut really was. I mean, what was I supposed to say? Yeah, I got played by someone who smiled while draining my wallet and then laughed about it with her friends. That wasn't something you said out loud without feeling like a fool. So instead, I buried it under jokes, let people celebrate the so-called revenge, and moved on with a smile that wasn't quite attached to anything real. I didn't talk about the nights I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering what part of me had allowed this to happen. Or the way I flinched every time my phone lit up with a number I didn't recognize, thinking maybe it was her. Maybe this time she'd say something different. Maybe she'd be sorry. But she never was. And that silence was its own kind of clarity. Marcus helped. Not by offering advice. He wasn't that kind of guy, but by showing up. He'd text me to grab a beer, or send dumb memes, or randomly drop by my place with a six-pack and a "we're watching the game." No arguments. He never once said, "I told you so." Never made me feel like I was stupid for falling for her. He just let me exist, messy, angry, recovering, and didn't try to fix me. That's how I knew he was a real one. One night, he brought over wings and said, "So, you gonna date again, or what?" I shrugged. Not in a rush. Fair. But don't let one fake make you doubt everyone. Easier said than done. He nodded. Yeah, but you know what? You played the long game, man. You could have exploded on her. You didn't. You let her show herself. That stuck with me. Because he was right. I didn't burn it down in a moment of rage. I waited. Watched. Let her dig her own hole. But even so, part of me still wrestled with the morality of it. I mean, sure, she embarrassed herself. But I helped orchestrate the moment. I gave her the rope, knowing exactly what she'd do with it. Was that justice? Or just cruelty with better branding? The answer didn't come right away. It came on a Sunday afternoon at the grocery store of all places. I was in line behind a couple, late 20s, casually dressed. The guy had his hand on the small of her back, and she was looking up at him like he was telling the most fascinating story ever. He leaned in, kissed her temple, then whispered something that made her laugh. And it hit me. Not envy, not longing. Just realization. That's what love is supposed to look like. Not flashy. Not curated. Not posted for likes or weaponized for personal gain. Just two people choosing each other over and over again, even in the cereal aisle. That moment shifted something in me. I left the store and sat in my car for 10 minutes with the engine running. Thought about all the ways I'd been measuring connection. All the ways I'd been auditioning for affection. Thinking that if I just did more, paid more, gave more, I'd be loved more. But love doesn't work like that. Love isn't a barter system. It's not earned through sacrifice or unlocked like a loyalty reward. It's given. Freely. Honestly. And when it's not love. After that day, I started rebuilding. Not my image or my social life. Those things didn't need fixing. It was my internal compass that had been knocked off course. I'd spent so long ignoring my own discomfort, dismissing red flags, prioritizing her validation over my peace. Now, I was trying to reverse that damage. Piece by piece. I made a list, quietly, in my journal, of what I'd do differently next time. Listen to my gut. If something feels off, it probably is. No one is worth shrinking for. If I have to downplay my needs, it's a red flag. Generosity should be mutual, not performative. Boundaries aren't punishment, they're protection. Love shouldn't feel like a debt I'm constantly repaying. And most of all, I won't date someone who treats appreciation like a limited resource. One night, a few friends invited me out for drinks. Among them was a woman named Tessa, sharp wit, sarcastic smile, and an eye roll that could flatten egos. We talked for a bit, nothing flirty, just casual banter about movies and the hellscape that is LA traffic. At one point, she said, "So, you're the guy from the dinner video, huh?" I froze for a second. That obvious? She laughed. "You're famous in certain corners of the internet." Great. She sipped her drink. Honestly, kind of a boss move. But you looked sad in it. That surprised me. Sad? Yeah. You weren't smug. You just looked done. I didn't say anything for a second. Then I nodded. I was. She smiled. Good. Because anyone who walks away that clean has already healed more than they think. We didn't exchange numbers that night. We didn't fall into each other's arms. But when she left, she said, "You're not as cold as they make you out to be." And I replied, "I'm not cold. I'm just finally warm toward myself." The seasons shifted in a way I hadn't noticed before, subtle changes in the air, the light, the background noise of daily life. Summer had started to fade, and the edge of fall crept in with cooler mornings and earlier sunsets. And somewhere between those changing winds, I realized the anger had left me. Not overnight. Not dramatically. It just softened. like an old bruise that no longer ached when pressed. I wasn't bitter anymore, and that felt strange. For so long, bitterness had been the fuel. It had powered my silence, my decisions, my distance. But now, I wasn't replaying the moment I walked out of La Belle Aime. I wasn't checking her social media. I wasn't imagining confrontations or longing for apologies. She was gone, and I was still here, standing. One morning, I went to my favorite diner, small, cozy, real. They knew me by name. I always ordered the same thing: black coffee, 2 eggs, sourdough toast. The booth in the corner had become mine in a way nothing else had in months. That morning, something hit me as I sipped my coffee and watched the waitress refill another table's cups. This is peace. Not fireworks. Not victory parades. Just the quiet, solid knowledge that I didn't owe anyone anything. Not my energy, not my forgiveness, not my future. Later that week, Marcus invited me over for a small get-together. Just 6 or 7 people, casual. I almost said no. I'd gotten used to my solitude, but something told me to go. When I walked in, everyone smiled like they were genuinely happy to see me. No one mentioned Emily. No one asked for updates. It was just normal. Easy. Tessa was there again. Same sarcastic spark. Same unbothered energy. This time, we talked longer. About books. About jobs. About bad first dates and worse exes. She told me about how she once got ghosted after splitting a bill on a dinner date, and how she spent a year blaming herself for being too independent. I told her how I once mistook silence for loyalty. How I thought paying for everything was the same as being valued. She looked at me, head tilted slightly, and said, "We really all just trying to be seen, huh?" "Yeah," I said. "We just choose the wrong spotlights." By the end of the night, we were the last 2 left in the backyard, sitting on old lawn chairs under patio lights. I offered to walk her to her car. She hesitated before unlocking the door. "You know," she said, "I used to think closure was something someone else had to give you. And now," she smiled, "now I think you give it to yourself. When you finally stop waiting for people to explain why they broke what they never planned to keep." I didn't ask to see her again. I didn't try to turn it into anything more than what it was, a good moment with a good person. And that was enough. Because I'd already won. Not in the petty, social media sense. Not in the viral revenge way. But in the way that mattered. My life was my own again. No more walking on eggshells. No more performing. No more trying to earn the kind of love that should be given freely. That weekend, I returned to La Belle Aime. Alone. I made the reservation under a fake name. Showed up wearing jeans and a black tee. Simple, unassuming. The host asked, "Is someone joining you?" "No," I said. "Just me." They sat me at a table in the corner. I didn't look around to see if anyone recognized me. If they did, they didn't say anything. I ordered a glass of red wine. The same kind she ordered that night. But this time, I actually tasted it. I didn't scroll through Instagram. I didn't take any pictures. I just sat there, sipping slowly, watching the soft glow of candles on every table. People laughed around me. Waiters moved with practiced elegance. And I felt no anger, no resentment, just a steady sense of having survived something that once had the power to wreck me. When the waiter brought my check, I smiled and handed over my card. "I assume everything was to your liking, sir?" "Perfect," I said. He nodded. "We'd love to have you again." I finished the last sip of wine, stood up, and walked out the door. No spotlight, no drama, no scene. Just a man who had once been broken wide open and learned how to stitch himself back together without losing the softness. That night, I wrote one last journal entry. Forgiveness doesn't mean returning. Closure doesn't mean contact. Healing doesn't require a witness. I didn't win by hurting her. I won by refusing to let her break me twice. I let her go without hating her. I let myself go without apologizing for it. And now, the only thing I'm chasing is peace. No applause. No audience. Just me, standing on the quiet stage of my own life. And for once, that was enough. If you've ever had to let go of someone who never planned to love you right, this chapter was for you. Not every story ends in reunion or revenge. Some end with a quiet walk away and the strength to never turn back. If you've found your peace, or are still searching for it, drop your thoughts below. Your story matters more than the one they tried to write for you.